Welcome back to the show. It's time for the week in review, and we've got one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. I'm sitting here with the one and only. It's Adam from XRP Cafe. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, great, Brad. How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. Now, I had food poisoning last week, and I just want to say it's not fun. So if you have the chance, just skip it,
I agree. I was sick all last week, and it was something my 7-year-old gave me from like the first week of school.
Yeah.
And it was not fun. So I'm finally, like on the mend. So it's great to be back here.
It's great that we're both on the comeback. I can tell you that because it was a tough one last week, and it was a long week. But nevertheless, we had some really great things happening, Adam, and there's a lot for us to talk about today. So, one, we're going to talk about, where do you want to start? We could start so many places. Where would you like to start?
There's a kind of a lot to unpack this week. We got the RLUSD, we got the Grayscale news, we got Brad making the announcement that Ripple wants to go after programmability on the ledger. So I'm fair, I'm ready to just jump into it.
Let's see, where do we start? Let's start with the real USD. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I think that's a hugely positive thing for the whole space. We have a few players kind of dominating the market, like Circle and Tether. I think Tether just came out and said they have a $6 billion profit, which is just astronomical. It's, I think they only have 300 employees versus like BlackRock's, 20, 30,000. And it was like a similar profit or whatever. And, ridiculous. And that stablecoin market is only growing. It's only getting bigger. And it just makes sense from a regulatory and compliance standpoint that Ripple would jump into this market and want a big piece of that market share. And they got the licenses to do that. They got the talent to do that. And I think it's a hugely positive thing, and it's going to help kind of grow that liquidity on the ledger and bring more people in.
Oh, I think it's so well said. And, and reminding the audience that they will be launching the real USD on the XRPLedger and the Ethereum network, which I believe is going to, I think over time, create a mass exodus off of Ethereum for people. I really do believe this because they're going to see how much more efficient the XRP Ledger is. And this is almost kind of like that invitation with the stablecoin. Hey, come on over and check out the XRP Ledger, right?
Yeah, I think it only makes sense to go multi-chain with this because there's a lot of liquidity on those other chains. There's not as much liquidity on the XRP Ledger yet, but they're trying to do things to fix that. Not just Ripple, but other entities as well. But I think that liquidity will only grow, and this is just a net win for the whole space in general, not just for the XRPL.
I think that's so well said too. Now, to that point, the real USD could be in a matter of weeks, maybe even days, because it's not months, right? So it is very exciting to see it be that close. Now, let's talk about this idea. They have announced that it will be for institutional use only first. And it's understandable that you're not going to go to Ripple and buy stable coins. We knew that, and we don't go to Ripple and buy XRP, right? So that makes sense to me. But we also understand that there is such a thing as a wholesale stable coin and then a retail stable coin. Do you see this as being one or the other, or eventually serving as both? Because it's going to start off as wholesale at first, or institutional.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting decision that they said, well, this is only for, regulated entities at first. I think that's more in terms of them saying, well, we want to kind of, this is going to be more of like a pilot, and we're going to test this with businesses or regulated institutions. And then we're going to move into retail once we know, everything is safe, everything works, and everything is kind of growing in terms of like the liquidity aspect. And I think part of that is might be the redemption process where you're trading out actual dollars for, RLUSD and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops.
It really will. And, and it makes sense to me that they would bring the institutions into this stable coin first because, look, with a stable coin, you have a peg. You have to maintain a peg. If you bring institutions in that take large positions, I think it's much easier to maintain that peg when you're first starting out and get this. You understand how many transactions are happening during a day as opposed to an enormous retail base being exposed to it and then all the volatility of the buy and selling every day before you onboard some institutional liquidity. Does that make sense to you, Adam?
I think that makes complete sense. And also with their existing client relationships, it makes sense from just a remittance standpoint. And, they're working with payments. And there's probably a lot of those businesses or clients that only deal with either USD or some kind of fiat. They're not wanting to transact through crypto necessarily. But this is kind of the bridge to get them to transact through crypto. So it makes complete sense.
It really does. And now let's shift and talk about the news that came out yesterday. Grayscale announcing that they're launching a United States XRP Trust. Adam, what say you?
Yeah, so I saw that news, and it looked like it was for accredited investors at first. And I think that's, Grayscale almost, I don't want to say it too much, but Grayscale kind of giving the green light, like, hey, we feel comfortable with like entering back into this market, and the lawsuit is mostly over. Like we're ready to roll with this, and we're ready to start introducing some of these products back into the market, into Wall Street, and it's hugely positive. I think that takes advantage of a lot of the liquidity in Wall Street, and what's going to come next? ETF maybe? I don't know.
Well, that's the exciting part, right? Is that this, they did announce that the fund that they're launching, the trust, is going to be a closed-end fund, which, as I understand, that means that they're saying right up front that Grayscale will own the assets in the fund. You will own a position, but you won't own the assets. That's how I understand that. If it was an open-ended fund, I understand it as each individual owns the asset as well as the ETF position. I think that's how I understand that. However,
I think most of the Grayscale funds are closed-end funds where they manage everything. Yeah.
Okay, so that and that may also be, and I don't know, but that may also be a necessary step to eventually go to a spot ETF too. I don't know, but it seemed because they mentioned it, I was like, well, there's a reason, right? There's a reason they let everybody know it's a closed-end fund. So, but I'm super excited because it's $10 and like 70 some cents or change, $10 and change a share, which means that we've got 20 XRP about on average locking up each share. That's TVL, baby. That's total value getting locked up. And I love seeing products that lock up and custody the asset because it stabilizes the network and the value over time. And that is something I'm super excited about. Your thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, I'll comment on like the TVL aspect. You brought that up. That's a good point because I've always thought TVL is one of the key pieces to the puzzle of bringing just liquidity into a network. And if you look at some of these DeFi protocols that are out onto some of these other chains, they're worth a massive amount, and they've grown a massive amount just because of TVL and people like coming into the chain and locking up that liquidity. If you want to affect price, TVL.
TVL.
That's all I'll say.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, well, let's talk about the automated market makers right now. Like, I think we've set a new all-time high recently for TVL with automated market makers on the ledger as well, right?
Yeah, so that's continuing to grow here. I want to say it's like over 20 million USD is locked up. Don't quote me on that. But
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's growing. It's still a small amount overall, and I think once we see the stablecoin and some of these other products kind of being rolled in, we're going to see a lot more TVL and a lot more participation.
And I also saw a proposal or an amendment that just came through too that was going to help with the actual spreads and things of that nature for making markets and transactions. Correct?
I believe so. I'm not 100%
100%,
familiar
yeah.
with that. I think I'm really excited about the whole like RWA thing. If we can
Yeah.
bring, I think it was recently announced that there's a project doing tokenized bonds or T-bills on the ledger, which I think is gonna help with just the tokenization aspect, but also TVL. Like we can create with fungible tokens, we can create markets for those with AMM. There's another project called Meld Gold, who is going to be doing tokenized gold through fungible tokens on the ledger, and that's got to be directly through an AMM as well to help control that price and like keep it in line arbitrage wise with the broader markets. So this is there's a lot of great things coming in terms of this DeFi on the ledger.
There really is. And, hopefully we get legislation soon too, which I feel like has been this shadow that's just lurking over top of crypto for so many years now. And it's become more obvious and more obvious to me over time. This is the logjam. And when we get that legislation, I feel like there's so many advantages for the developers that are here in the XRP Ledger system that are already first movers out here. And when we get that clarity, you're going to see that massive adoption, right, happen. The NDAs burn off and all of those things. And just people saying, finally, banks, I can work with it. I can totally cool to work with. But in doing so, as with everything that's new, these businesses and financial institutions are going to find that there's some kind of problem, some kind of friction they're going to run into. And then that first mover developer that's already here, that's already acclimated with how to use the ledger and the SDKs and all that stuff, they're the ones that are going to benefit here. Could you speak to that, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the developers that are over here, they're learning something a lot earlier than most people, and they will benefit massively, I think, for that when that regulation finally does drop. I saw where the UK had some really positive regulation just recently, but I feel like the whole world's kind of been waiting for the US and waiting for us. And right now we have an election coming up, and I feel like nobody really wants to do anything right now. But hopefully after the election, obviously the Republicans are really pro crypto right now. I think Trump just announced that he has some kind of DeFi project that is going to be revolve around some kind of banking products, and I think that's hugely positive for the whole space, and it'll be interesting to see what happens after that election. But when we finally do get the shoe to drop and all of that regulation comes down, yeah, like you said, I think we're going to see a massive amount of interest. We're going to see a massive amount of adoption, and there's going to be it's going to benefit everybody in the space. Absolutely.
I definitely think it is too, because at the end of the day, we it is the new internet, right? It is the next iteration of the internet, and there's only so much holding it down you can do. Even Jay Clayton had said when he was still at the SEC, if you don't embrace the technology, it's just going to innovate around you, and even he knew that, right? So it's like where I'm at today is of the mindset that legislation is going to set this market in motion. And more importantly, the companies and the projects and the digital assets that have been striving to be transparent, that have been striving to be legally compliant as they can be and as transparent as they can be, those are the ones that are going to be poised to be selected to be the leaders, because they've already, championed that kind of position prior to getting the legislation, right? So to me, I just think that is all sitting in front of us. And I wouldn't rule out a rope-a-dope of this administration, because I'm seeing little flashes of things like cease and desist, settlements in cases, quick little turnaround times. CFTC just wrapped up something with Uniswap, right? Then they had another case, is these quick little things that are now all of a sudden, matter of fact, we just saw that the SEC has just said, we're sorry, we've been using the term crypto asset securities and it's made up, right? They literally just had to put that in the footnote of a Binance case, right? So these kind of little signals are starting to show me that either they're about to sneak something through, hoping it gives favor at the booth, the voting booth, from this administration or the Harris camp, or they understand that the next administration is about to put this through, right? And they're trying to position in a way leading up to that gives favor to whoever their largest lobbyists are, right? Because, I mean, that's the way the government's run, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Like, both sides are really going to eventually have to embrace crypto. Like, cat's out of the bag.
Yep.
We have ETF, Bitcoin ETF on Wall Street. Wall Street's fully on board, and that's where all the money is.
That's right.
You're not going to have one side continually trying to fight crypto, but I still feel like a lot of this is tied back to the banking lobby and them trying to just slow it down so that banks can figure out a way, how do we intertwine some of these products and how do we profit from this, right, at the end of the day? Yep. And what it means is, how do we stay compliant, and then how do we participate in DeFi? How do we, roll in RWA and all of these other narratives, because this space moves really, really quickly. Yep. And, the banking industry, as you know, moves really, really slowly. So I think they're all trying to just navigate that and figure out a way, like, how can we make this work, right?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Adam, tell everybody where they can find you in XRP Cafe and exactly what XRP Cafe does.
Yeah, so it's literally the link XRP.cafe, and we're an NFT marketplace on the XRPL. We also have a new product that we're launching called First Ledger. It's going to be a new type of AMM DEX trading platform that's going to have a integrated self-custody wallet that's going to basically smooth out the whole onboarding process and make everything really, really seamless. And then we have kind of a stealth project called Honey Cluster that's going to provide public infrastructure, data services for developers, data tooling, and that's going to be less retail focused, but you're going to see that probably operating on the back ends of a lot of different dApps and a lot of different development platforms on the XRP ledger. So.
Well, that is super exciting, and I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. And I want to let everybody out here know XRP Las Vegas 25, the conversations are intensifying, and they're happening in a very productive way. I'm talking with Adam and getting insights and direction with him. We're putting things together here, and I couldn't be more excited, Adam. And we're going to continue that conversation as we move forward doing these things. And I have some news that's coming together. We're going to be breaking some news soon, and it's going to be fantastic. And I couldn't be more excited to have you be a part of it and helping. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited about XRP Las Vegas. The energy last year was just fantastic. I can say hands down, it was one of my favorite conferences, just in terms of the enthusiasm and like the people that you meet. And, even though it was, kind of one of the smaller conferences that I went to, I see this only growing. I see this growing. Like, we went to Rare Evo conference, which was kind of a Cardano only conference. This probably 4 weeks ago in Las Vegas, and they started 3-4 years ago, and they were really small, but then since then they've grown and they've had like 16 different chains represented there. There's a lot of people that have had interest. I kind of see XRP Las Vegas growing into that and having some of these other chains that kind of have crossover in the community, like Ecstasy and Flare and HBAR and some of these other chains involved with that. Yep. And want to be there because it brings just a whole different side of the community together, and it's really positive. And there's not a lot of blockchain conferences in Vegas right now. I think Rare Evo was the only one that I know of, and so there's kind of a big hole to fill there.
It really is. There's no question about it. And I want to invite all of those projects that you mentioned. Reach out to me, contact me. Let's get you on that ticket and on that stage while there's still slots open, right? Because that is important. And there is going to be a huge wave of DeFi and all of this to come, because I believe with legislation, they should clear that up for all of us. And then it kicks the door open so we don't have to revisit this issue, 5 years from now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see more projects there. I know last year there was just a handful, like 4 to 5 different projects
Yep.
there. But I think we can easily triple that or more.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really awesome to see a lot more participation. I'd love to see, the new XRP Foundation there. I want to see,
Yep.
Ripple there. I want to see other in it. I want to see more businesses too.
Yes, 100%, no doubt about it. The door is open. Send us the DM. We're getting started. Adam from XRP Cafe, I want to thank you for all you do. You're amazing, and you're a great leader out here in this community, Adam. And I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm feeling better. Let's not get sick no more. Let's just make a pact. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. Yeah. Thanks, Brad, for having me. And likewise to you. You do a lot for the community. You're a huge voice and a huge inspiration and an ambassador for the community. So I want to, say thank you for everything that you do as well.
Hey, man, it takes a village, brother. You know what I mean? It takes a village, right? It takes developers,
Absolutely.
It takes salesmen,
Absolutely.
It takes retail people, it takes investors, it takes startups, entrepreneurs. You don't have a community unless you have all of the community, right? So that's what this
100%.
is, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Adam, don't go away. Happy Friday, everybody. We'll catch all of you on the next one.